So next, looking at some fascinating case studies, effective rules, and also key lessons on building a vibrant cloud business. Please welcome the Head of Product and Marketing at Bright Solid, Neil Campbell.
Thanks, Mark. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Perfect. Neil Campbell, I head up product and marketing for Bright Solid's B2B business, our enterprise business. So I've got 25 minutes to talk through a few things with you guys. First off, going to introduce Bright Solid. Then 3 stories of the work we're doing with application vendors, 3 rules we follow in partnering with app vendors, and 3 lessons learned or things that we're thinking about just now. You need to excuse me, the intro to Bright Solid is definitely the longest of the 10, but we'll get over the hump and then we're downhill from there, so we're fine. To just introduce Bright Solid and give you some background to our company, wholly owned by DC Thomson & Co. DC Thomson are a very renowned company in Scotland, headquartered in Dundee. They've been established for 150 years, 1,500 employees. Last year turned over £250 million. They've also got £750 million in non-traded investments, so very successful organisation. Interesting, they're in the publishing and media field. So last year they published 250 million comics, books, magazines and newspapers, and that's what they do every single year. This includes a lot of regional newspapers, and they're also very, very proud of their heritage with the Beano and Dandy, which they founded and still publish every Wednesday. And also wholly owned Paragon Books, which publishes a phenomenal number of books every year in the non-fiction space. So these guys are a really great organisation. They founded Bright Solid 15 years ago, as a kind of foresight of saying, where's the publishing and media market going? We need to get into this IT space. What's going on there? So Bright Solid was founded 18 years ago. What we offer now is innovative online applications for both consumers and enterprises. We've got a team of 225 now, so that's growing pretty fast. We've grown from about 50 people 3 years ago, so I've seen some great growth in our people numbers. But we're also, at our core, we're an MSP. We've got 2 UK data centres in Scotland, headquartered in Dundee, and we've got offices in Shoreditch, Edinburgh, and internationally Dublin, Sydney, and our new US headquarters in Santa Monica, Los Angeles. I'll just give you an introduction first off to give 2 sides to our business. So I talked about the consumer side and the enterprise side. Where we are today, we're the #1 in online genealogy in the UK, #2 globally. We're also a top 3 UK social media player. And in these spaces, we own and operate brands. So we run the brands ourselves. We've got all the expertise. We do all the development in-house and offer that into the consumer space. But this is all supported by our MSP heritage. So underneath all that, we've got what we like to call the engine room of the business, which is the Dundee facilities, the data centres we have up there in Scotland, and the infrastructure expertise that we have. We then take that expertise of running our own internal systems and make that available to other customers. So that business model extends from application clouds to infrastructure as a service and virtual network provision. I'll touch on our consumer business because it hopefully helps to bring to life a wee bit of what we're working on. So all these brands are owned and operated by Bright Solid. Maybe you may recognise from there Friends Reunited, which we acquired from ITV 3 years ago, primarily for their Jeans Reunited brand, but we just relaunched Friends a couple of months back, which is seeing some great success. Find My Past, which is our core genealogy family history brand. That's the biggest brand in the UK in that space, 2nd biggest worldwide. And the British Newspaper Archive, which we'll touch on, but it's a fascinating case study that we're doing a large digitisation project in partnership with the British Library. Just to give you a scale of what's happening in our business and the expertise we get to build because of the consumer brands that we run, there's a new name added every second to the Jeans Reunited family tree. So we're really used to big data. We've got 24 million registered members in Friends Reunited and over 1.5 billion names in our online genealogy databases. So when you talk about big data, that's just what we do day to day, all from an infrastructure perspective. I mentioned the British Library project. So British Newspaper Archive.co.uk is a really, really interesting collaboration project between the British Library and Bright Solid. It turns out the British Library keep a copy of every newspaper published in the UK. They store this in a warehouse in North London in Colindale, and we're now partnering with them in one of Europe's biggest and certainly the UK's biggest digitisation projects. We're going through that. We've got 2 shifts actually working, so working pretty much, I think, 18 hours a day to get this stuff scanned in. So literally guys putting bits of newspaper onto scanners. It's all OCR'd and then put up online. It's an absolutely fascinating project. We've got a 10-year commitment with the British Library to continue to do this. We launched in October last year with 4 million newspapers live, which are fully searchable online. So we like to talk about them being enough. We're digitising enough newspaper every day to cover Hampden, so Scotland's national stadium. And it's a very proud Dundonian business. There's a picture of David Dodds, who's a very famous Dundee United striker, in his heyday scoring at Hampden. So it's a bit of a detour. But back to reality, and so everyone else has started their presentations with some statistics and then tried to go on that, so I didn't want to break that trend. So a few things from an enterprise market, all the expertise we've got in this consumer space, what are we doing to make that available in the enterprise? I'll pick out a few. I think it's a fluid and changing market and a fascinating place to be. So according to IBM's CIO report last year, only 6% of non-IT stakeholders see IT as a critical enabler of the business. So this is totally changing, right? Where we come from in an IT world is that's how the business is made, right? You've got the right systems in place and you just can scale infinitely. That's not how others see IT as an organization. And what we have the opportunity to do is to help IT organizations take their rightful place as leaders in the business and enablers of change. As you'd expect, security is a major concern and one we speak about people almost every day. We're seeing massive growth in the cloud market. I'm sure the stats from the analysts we heard this morning are much more relevant than mine, and I'm sure I copied and pasted out a presentation I heard a while back. But these are, it's an exciting market to be in. Partnering extensively is, of course, comes up. So 65% of CIOs saying that they see that as where the future of their business is going. And a key thing is 35% of IT budgets being outside IT. We were speaking to a CIO last week who gave a great quote. So one CIO, a kind of C-level exec last week, saying in their organization, the IT department is the reputation of where great ideas go to die. So he's saying, you look at someone in the business will come and say, we need a CRM to transform our organization. And the IT department will turn around and say, well, that's a 9-month project. You're looking at 800, 900K to deliver that. Or you can phone Salesforce and it's online next week and it's 30 grand. And that kind of enabler of change in the business is phenomenal and really, really interesting in the conversations we're seeing with business leaders, and particularly those in the IT function who are focused on change. To give you an idea of our customers, we've got a lot of great organisations, people like Lloyds Banking Group, Standard Life, National Australia Group, Alliance Trust, so FTSE members there, and big financial sort of heritage. Some public sector. Clyde Union Pump's a great example, an organisation that's scaled phenomenally the last few years, traditionally making pumps in Glasgow, and they now are one of the world leaders in this space and have, I think, operated in 30 countries around the world. So it's some great organisations. And agility is what comes out, especially something like that. You've got a case study, people who are saying, look, we've got a single ERP system. We're expecting 5 acquisitions in the next 3 years. How are we going to make that happen? And agility, and it was mentioned before by Stephen, is absolutely at the centre of that. But what do we offer these guys? So what's the product lineup? Fully managed infrastructure, so infrastructure as a service, whether that's dedicated or multi-tenant. This is managed hosting. This is our bread and butter, and that's what we do for most of the customers we mentioned there. We've got the facilities, and we've got the nationwide network to link that up. Our heritage comes from being an ISP, so we really understand the comm side of things and really build that in to make sure that that's absolutely not a bottleneck in any solutions we're delivering. Put down there security 24/7. Two kind of key mantras that we follow. 24/7 is something we hear from a lot of people, obviously very, very important, but in our world, that sits second to security. Security is really hard, right? Because you don't have full control over how to manage this. It's a constantly evolving market. So right front and center of our conversations we have people is around security and how we develop the products for within our organization. It's also crucial to CIOs. They're seeing their business, okay, if they go down for after an hour or whatever, that's a disaster. But if they have a security breach, that's a disaster at a company stage. That's not just a kind of IT issue. And so it's absolutely core in what we're doing and right at the center of the conversations we have. We also run, and what I'll talk about today a bit more, is our application clouds. So this is providing software as a service, but it's software as a service with compliance, security, and usability. So things like IBM's tools, Maximo, Cognos, SAP, a great tool I'm going to touch on from a company called Mango Spring, along with the entire Microsoft stack, Exchange, Link, SharePoint, Dynamics. And what we're providing there is per user per month pricing and enterprise class. So it's giving organizations the flexibility that they want with the applications they're working with, but yet the benefits are working in the cloud. So they're getting the pricing benefits, they're getting the idea of a single point of contact if something goes wrong. Something like Exchange is nice, and we balance this up. So hosted Exchange, cloud-based Exchange is an interesting comparison to something like 365, which was talked about before. And I think where we see that being different, and we differentiate there, if you look on how Microsoft support 365, so it's a major play for them, and their clear messages from support is if there's an outage, we'll be working very hard to resolve it, keep an eye on Twitter and we'll update you. Which is great, right, if you're a 50-person company. If you're the CIO of a FTSE organization, that's not really the message you want at that point in time. And so what they want to be able to do is phone up and speak directly with the engineers who are working on the problem. And that's the kind of relationship that we have with customers we work with day in, day out. So that's my long intro to Bright Solid. But hopefully it gives you a bit of context for where we come from, something about the company, and a kind of introduction to the rest of the session. Now I get 3 stories of the work we were doing with application vendors. And this sits at the software as a service layer. So it's customers coming to us saying, we've got a business problem. I don't want to get 2 or 3 different partners together and sort of work out a solution. I want you guys to get together yourselves, provide an end-to-end solution, and give me a single point of contact, a single contract, and a single SLA to deliver that. And that's really where we're focused, and we're seeing a lot of growth in our organization at the moment. The first is what I'll call a kind of traditional model. This is with IBM's Maximo product, so Maximo Asset Management. So it's an enterprise class product used by a lot of FTSE-sized companies. Traditionally, this is on-premise, or potentially you'd work with a managed hosting company to provide you a rack and you can fill it up with Maximo kit. But we're working with a Maximo partner in that space who has absolute expertise in Maximo. We've got the absolute expertise in the infrastructure, and delivering that to the customer, single contract, single SLA. Partnerships are launched in October. We're now live with a FTSE 250 client. It's working really well from the client's perspective. They get the one contract, single SLA per user pricing that they're looking for. But they also are seeing expansion. Within the first 12 weeks, they extended the project. We went live with the project 6 weeks after signing the contract, which it's not a few days, but it's for an enterprise class product, for an enterprise class in a large enterprise organization. It's pretty good turnaround. And it just gave us the control, working with our partners, of the end-to-end solution that really makes a difference. As I mentioned, they've extended that project already, and we're seeing additional deals in doing that. Of the 3 different stories I'll tell of the kind of organizations we're working with, this is probably the traditional model, and probably where we've been doing this for a while, and others will be as well. It's basically we give the pricing to the app vendor or the partner. They then package that up and go out to their customers, knowing that we can scale up and scale down on delivering that. Excuse me. The second story would be around sort of agile delivery. So agility was something that was brought up before, and I think something we hear a lot about and really interesting in the conversations we have. This is based on IBM's Cognos Business Analytics product. So it's not expertise we have in-house. Again, we work with a partner in this case, Barakt, who are absolute experts in the Cognos space. The really nice example here, talking about agility, it was about 2 months ago probably. So UK Police Force, in discussions with them on about the Tuesday, saying they've got major concerns about a sporting event that Saturday. They'd had some intel, there's going to be trouble, all these sort of things. What can they do about that? By Friday, we'd gone live with a live Cognos-delivered application hosted from our facilities, analysing all social media during that weekend and alerting for trends in real time. So you can imagine it's not rocket science, it's looking for things like anyone up for a fight or whatever else you're going with, but then picking these up, identifying them to the police and making sure they're there. So it turns out they've got much more information to work with and much more proper analysis than just someone keeping an eye on it internally. It's a great project in terms of agility, where you're taking Monday a business problem with no idea how they're solved, Tuesday a business problem they've got a solution for, and think they know where they're going. Friday it's live, Saturday it works, and Monday they don't need to pay for it anymore. It's just a brilliant end-to-end solution. It's a great case study in this space. Again, how does the model work on that side? Now, our model there is working with the partner. We've got a kind of co-sell, co-deliver type solution. So we're saying, okay, let's co-sell. Let's split the revenue. So we're doing a revenue share. We're not giving them pricing saying, okay, it's per VM, per server. And then we're taking a sort of shared risk, shared reward in delivering that. It then also enables our sales team to go out and build in the relationships we have with organizations, introducing this as part of our product range. And you can imagine that there's some incentive on our side if we sell something compared to the other guy to a partner selling. But it sits in that kind of model. And we're seeing that as a great conversation starter, because it's a hell of a lot more interesting than talking about how tier 3 plus tier 4 your data center is and how secure your racks are and everything like that. It's just a real life business problem. You've got a real life business solution to it. The third story here will be around some game-changing technology. So applications are still focused on our core market. They're absolutely enterprise applications, but they're not as mainstream as maybe some of the IBM products or the Microsoft stack. The product we're going to talk about is Mango Apps. Maybe some of you have heard of it. They're a Seattle-based ISV, very focused in the American market. About 50 employees. They've been around since 2007, so 5 years. Privately funded organization. Their CEO previously exited, got his mates together and started something else. They are what we believe, and from a feature perspective, most certainly the world's most advanced enterprise collaboration software. So this is the market where you're saying, okay, internal email isn't the best way to communicate inside an organization. What's the next stage in this? How do you make sure that, how do you take the best of social media and that Facebook generation and actually make that environment work in your enterprise to create a collaborative, innovative culture? Mango picked out by Gartner as one of the kind of key applications to watch for the next year. And we're seeing a load of interest in this space at the moment. It's quite well known. There's other people doing things, for example, Jive, Yammer, tend to be the leaders in this space. We came across Mango by looking internally and saying, we've seen growth in our business, said 50 to 250, 225. It ends up with silos, different people feeling they're doing work that someone else probably should know more about than they do. How do you create that kind of culture around your organization? We did a pretty thorough search of the market, came up with about a short list of 10, then a shorter list of about 3 or 4, did a proper analysis of where we felt the best tools were to meet our requirements, and on the basis of that, selected Mango Apps. We've then since built a great relationship with their with their Seattle-based team, and have since become their European partner. So we're working, delivering this application end-to-end for customers, hosted in our UK data centers, and sold by our on-the-ground sales team. So as I say, the model there, we sell and support the tool in Europe. These guys are an ISV. They develop software. They have no real interest in hiring guys in the UK or Europe to be doing this stuff. A couple of guys on the ground in the US. But the way they want to scale is through partners. We're taking that on, adding the value we've got, the case studies we've got, and building the credibility behind that to take their product and make it available to some of the UK's largest enterprises. We work together on lead gen. We've got a license model with them, and then also work together with them to develop the product. So we're obviously taking it out, working hand in hand with a lot of different customers, and feeding that back to their development team to continue to enhance the product there. So I kind of talked about 3 different stories of application vendors we're working with. So we started in Maximo. It's kind of traditional. The guys are going out, they're taking our per VM pricing, decided they need 10 VMs to run that, and then giving a price based on that. Our second one, where it's the football guys, and they're doing an analysis of what we need to do. We're co-sell, co-deliver. Or the third one, where we're licensing the product and we're effectively fronting the sales for that. So that was 3 stories of how we're working with the app vendors. 3 key rules we follow when partnering. So how do we choose the right people to partner with, especially if we're going to be giving it to our sales team to go out and work hand in hand and take it to their contacts? What we don't want is a toolkit that's got so much stuff in it no one really understands anything. How do we make sure it fits in really nicely with the conversations we're having? So rule number 1, and this is where our benefit of our larger organization comes in, both the DC Thompson organization, the 1,500 people there, or the 250 people we've got running websites supporting over 25 million users. It's all about being our own customer. We want to take applications that we can use internally, make sure we can do the R&D there, we can identify the business problems, work them through, select the best of breed application, and understand end-to-end how that works, how we're supporting it, and make sure we've got a model that works, and then take that case study and offer that identical case study to our customers. It's working really well as a model, and it allows us to make sure we're absolutely confident about what we're taking to market and the types of things we're partnering with. So Mango is the right example. We're deployed that completely internally. It's a phenomenal impact in our business. We're then able to take that example elsewhere and show people how it works without and ensure we've got a good understanding of what we're talking about in that space. Because this is a change, right? Previously, we're selling rack space and how many, you need half a rack of this and we'll manage it, and it's got Windows servers. So it's a change for our sales team, but because they're using it every day, it's a natural evolution. So rule number 2 we've got, it would be, let's select things that are a natural extension of our existing products. Again, we'll pick on Mango because it's a nice thing. Integrates entirely with the Microsoft stack, Exchange, Link, SharePoint. So it's an easy add-on to that. It's not something completely from left field, and it really is an extension of the conversation we're having. Rule 3 would be, let's try and satisfy an existing demand. So what I really mean here are customers asking us for this, because if we're having conversations about where they're seeing their projects coming in the next year, what are the key things that are on their agenda, and how can we build on that? So I say 3 rules. Use the application internally within our wider group. Be a natural extension of our existing products, and make sure and see if customers are asking us for it. Obviously, ideal situation, customers desperate for it, we absolutely know how to do it, and it fits really well with what we do. 3 out of 3, it's a no-brainer. Much more likely, it's 2 out of 3. It's a natural extension, the customer wants it, we should get involved in this space. If it's just the kind of 1 out of 3 where customers asking for it, but it doesn't really fit in with the conversations we're having elsewhere, and it does not really have any use to us, it's the kind of thing we'd probably take a step back from and introduce them to someone else. Okay, final part would be talking about the 3 lessons learned. So 3 kind of tips, 3 things we've been thinking about over the past sort of 4 to 6 months. And I got this just in some discussions with our leadership team and what kind of things we think that were worth a bit more thought than maybe we gave them initially, but now feel we're a bit more comfortable with. So don't underestimate application support. So we've got a real understanding of this, right? That ISVs are brilliant at developing software products, and then they'll ship the software product. And then hosting providers are brilliant at running infrastructure for long periods of time, 2 or 3 years. But there's kind of a missing gap at that top right, where it's like, okay, who's managing the application for that time? And who's going to make sure they've got the resources and the commitment to doing that over the long period of time? So just don't underestimate how much time and effort that might take. The second would be understanding comms. So I mentioned part of our heritage is originally as an ISP. Now we've got a nationwide MPLS network in the UK, and it's understanding how we're actually going to fit end-to-end the comms infrastructure we have in place there, and delivering to the desktop. Because nothing feels more like a project where the right comms aren't in place. So you get the server that's running perfectly, the user sitting there, and they just get really slow access times, or it's not delivering the performance they'd expect. And then the third, and it's a great quote, and it's something that we got from our head of sales. We were discussing a product, we were going out there, and it was a bit left field for us. And he used the great line, which is, well, it's a bit like selling a fire extinguisher in a butcher's. It doesn't matter how great a fire extinguisher it is, if you're not having the right conversation with the customers, it's kind of a complete waste of time, right? You can tell them more and more about the features of your fire extinguisher, but if they're in to buy some pork chops, it's kind of the wrong conversation to be having. So that was just to kind of emphasize the fact to make sure it's a natural extension of existing products and existing conversations that we're already having. Perfect. So that was near enough 25 minutes, sort of introducing Bright Solid, who we are from a consumer and enterprise business. The 3 stories we've got, which are the guys playing with the football match on Saturday, the asset management company deploying Maximo, and the Mango Apps experience. 3 rules we've looked at when partnering in terms of using it ourselves, etc. And 3 lessons learned there. Make sure we're not selling the wrong thing to the wrong people at the wrong time. Perfect. Just a great picture at the end. It was actually done for us by the guys who actually draw Dennis Semenis in the Beano. So it's Dennis Semenis with an iPad. It's all good. Perfect. Thank you very much.